for that click in behind the scenes stuff that we got going. Are we streaming? There we go. There's one. There's two. I see 2, 3. Today's episode of the Rants of Izzo show is brought by Spreely.com. All things speak freely. Go check it out. You want to speak freely, but you got your social media always banning you and stuff like. I know how it is. It's very irritating. Go to Spreely.com. There's a free social media where you can say what you want, express how your feelings are. This is also brought to you by the Burn Pit Podcast, which you could find on Spreely as well, too. Every Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Report and opine. I did speak to Eric Butler the other day. He's doing okay. We're going to have him on soon. Shannon Joy Show, Pete Santilli, and more. Spreely.com. We need to have a show.
Prepare yourself.
The opinions of the host and guests on the show are exclusively just that, opinions. That means that they shouldn't be the cause of your state of being offended. Why does everybody get so butthurt?
Okay, let's go. Ready, go!
Sit down, shut up, and pay attention. This is the Rants of Izzo Show with your host, Dominic Izzo, from porn to politics. We touch every third rail we can find. You might want to put your headphones on so your mom can't hear this. It's been called the most entertaining 60 minutes on the internet, and it starts now. Let's do this.
Hey, happy Wednesday. This is the Rants of Izzo show here on Spreely.com. All things speak freely. You got to fight for your right to free speech. And over in the chat, because we do have a chat, I see you guys are speaking freely. It's good to see April Schoen, Kelly Wilson, Morgan, Jen, Beto, all you guys are great. And you know what? America is saved. It is Wednesday. We have some good news. Since Daddy Trump is back in office, world peace has been established. You no longer have to pay taxes on anything. What else? You get free blowjobs for everyone. You know, I mean, yeah. Trump is back in office, so we have nothing to worry about. Is that safe to say, gents, or how's America doing so far?
I am optimistic. I have not taken the black pill. Well, partly taking the black pill, but I think Trump can actually do some good. Maybe. I'm leaving out hope, even though he's now promising to deport people that are anti-Semitic. But that's okay. That's okay. I don't know where they're going to send us. I don't know. Maybe they'll send us to Canada whenever he makes it to 51st state. I don't know.
Did he legitimately say he's going to deport people who are fucking anti-Semitic?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, New York Post actually had an article on it, multiple other websites, news websites. But yeah, he said he wants to deport anti-Semites and also students with H-1B visas, student visas. Because mainly this is on a college campus thing. A lot of these protests on college campuses is what kind of sparked this. But he said anti-Semitism in general. Now, again, he said this before. This isn't the first time he said this. He said this multiple times within the past year. Again, at an anti-Semitism convention he was at with Miriam Adelson, his top donor. And also in 2019, he signed an executive order banning anti-Semitism on college campuses. So he's already been doing this his entire previous administration, and now he's talking about it again currently.
Well, I sat there last week, I think it was Thursday, and I sent it to you, Scott. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it. I played the full documentary of, the Jews are not God's chosen people, and I learned some stuff in there. I was like, holy crap, man, including how oversaturated and watered down that term anti-Semitism is, and it's bullshit. It's the new racism. Call me an anti-Semite all you want. I breathe, and I still want to know. I want to know, what Israel's doing for us, because they're not doing anything. We have several directors, six cabinet members of his have been confirmed so far. I don't know if you guys have any opinions on these. Transportation secretary, who was Pete Buttigieg, who apparently, You are a gay man, and all of a sudden you know about racism in America and bridges being racist. Sean Duffy is now this transportation secretary. Hang on, you guys can always just you can't see me. What happened?
I see you have your computer up there.
Yeah.
Oh no, because I have a shared screen. I was showing you this stuff beforehand. That's it. Scott Bassinet, Treasury Secretary. Don't know who he is. Pete Hegseth did get confirmed as Defense Secretary. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. I'm very curious what you guys have thought about her. I don't know what her qualifications are to be Homeland Security Secretary.
Yeah, so what would you think her qualifications have to be at this point? What does anyone's qualification have to be from this point on, Dom?
Homeland Security, what I would like to see is somebody who has at bare minimum, what I could relate to my status is prosecution for illegal immigrants. And that would have to be somebody who's well versed in immigration law. And I don't know her status in that, because you're looking at securing the homeland, right? Zafazaland. I mean, I don't know how it is.
That's not necessary to be confirmed in any position in any presidential cabinet, Dominic. The only qualification you need to be a part of any type of department, to be the head of any department in any presidential cabinet, Dominic, is to be able to suck Zionist Israeli cock. And she does that very well.
She is kind of hot, though. I'm going to give her that.
Yeah. So she passed an anti-Semitism law in her state. We talked about this previously, to where now the Bible must have warning labels on it for anti-Semitic verses within the New Testament. So this woman sucks Israeli Zionist cock all day long, which is why she has that position. Go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah. Look, as far as governors go, she actually has a decent record as being a conservative. But again, when you listen to the speech that she gave when she passed that bill, which Matt's talking about, she's giving the same speech that you or I would give as a Christian Zionist if we still believed in a lot of that. She was giving the speech saying, when I was a little girl, I was taught to bless Israel, and those who bless my people I will bless, and those who curse my people I will curse, and Israel's our greatest ally, and all of this stuff. She's regurgitating the talking points that Republican Christian Zionists always do. So what qualifications does she have, though, legitimately to be the director of Homeland Security? Her resume is just in politics. Her resume is the governor of the state of South Dakota, which is one of the smaller states in the union. And she doesn't have, me personally, Matt, if you were to get somebody into that position, I would want somebody, like Dominic said, that has some knowledge of immigration policy, immigration legislation, that knows the history of immigration. I would want that person to know the Naturalization Act of 1790, who our founders really wanted in this country. And I would want them to have some sort of also law enforcement. You don't have to be a police officer. You don't have to have held a position like a county sheriff or anything like that, or even military. But they should have some basic knowledge of constitutional rights and also constitutional law coming into that position. And I don't see anything on her resume that would point to that. That's just me. And also too, I know this is horrible to say, I would rather have a man in that position.
Yeah, sorry. I agree. But again, to my point, that's realistic, common sense, logical qualifications. We don't need that anymore. That's not what's required from anybody anymore. Only thing that's required is you bow down to the nation of Israel and you bow down to Jewish supremacy. And I'm not trying to be funny here, ladies and gentlemen. That is the only thing you need. That's the only thing you need. Thomas Massey is probably the most constitutional member in the entire Congress, and he is shit upon because he doesn't support Israel. And I hate to say this, ladies and gentlemen. I know I sound like a broken record, but these are the fucking facts. And that's it. The Department of Homeland Security didn't even exist until 2001. It didn't even exist. You don't even need the Department of Homeland. It's just a branch of basically the Department of Defense. It's just you have all these branches. You don't even need that. The Department of Defense, you have the border control. You have border patrol, and you have ICE. They can already take care of those things. That was created for militarism. That's why the DHS was created.
I can't remember who it was before it was ICE. It was somebody else before it was ICE. I can't remember what because we used to do details with them. Homeland Security was developed after 9/11. So if we go down that rabbit hole, that means that the Jews help us create that one because they're allegedly involved with the 9/11 attacks that, people don't want to talk about.
Who was Deputy Director of Homeland Security in 9/11? Michael Chertoff. Dual citizenship of Israel, Jew. He's the one who sent the dancing Israelis back to Israel after 71 days, being, again, caught filming the Twin Towers going down before the planes hit.
I hate when you come
Tom
on
Ridge.
He was the head.
The governor of Pennsylvania was the first ever director of Homeland Security. Tom Ridge, who was the governor during that time.
Yeah. He was deputy director, Chertoff.
Yeah.
Well, we needed it. Remember back then, all of us were on eggshells nonstop, wondering what was going to be the next attack, and they did a great job. It was a fantastic ploy to create TSA and everything else now that we go through that's just utterly fucking ridiculous, all because that we were attacked. And we were so willing that I really don't know what else. You think about it. I remember responding during that time, all the way in Illinois. We thought we had every gas station in our town. We had 5 gas stations. All of them had lines around the blocks, and people were crying because they thought the Twin Towers were just attacked. We're going to go to $10 a gallon of gas. It was insane that day. We all worked a 24-hour shift. And I wonder what we didn't notice was happening in the next several months, like the creation of a new branch of government with Homeland Security. And we're all going to give up our freedoms and our rights to be more secure in our bedrooms at night. Let's all fly, right? I don't know if you guys remember. Do you remember every single American flag was sold out of all the stores? You couldn't go buy one. They were gone. And all of us had one up for like 2 months, and then it came back down. So all this time later, I really wonder what they put into play and how good our government is at saying, hey, be terrified of your freedom and we'll slip our hand up your skirt.
That's it. Again, problem, reaction, solution. The government creates a problem, terrorism. They come up with the reaction from the people, fear. We don't want to be attacked anymore. Their solution, illegal wiretapping, DHS, all these things, the Patriot Act. That's it. Problem, reaction, solution. We've talked about this multiple times. And this is what they do. This is their playbook, and it has been their playbook for a very long time.
Here's to your point. This was back from May of last year. A bipartisan push in Congress to enact a law cracking down on anti-Semitic speech on college campuses has prompted a backlash from far-right lawmakers and activists who argue it could outlaw Christian biblical teachings. The House passed legislation called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act overwhelmingly on Wednesday, and Senate leaders in both parties are working behind the scenes on Thursday to determine whether it could have enough backing to become a vote in the chamber. House Republicans rolled out the bill last week as part of their efforts to condemn the pro-Palestine's protests that have surged at campuses and universities across the country, and to put a squeeze on Democrats who they have accused of tolerating anti-Semitism to appease their liberal base. But in trying to use the issue as a political cudgel, I've always wondered if that's a Jewish word. Cudgel. I've always wanted. Against the left, Republicans have also called attention to the rift on the right. Okay, I want to see. Members have said they firmly believe that Jews killed Jesus Christ and argue that the bill, which includes such claims in its definitions of anti-Semitism, would outlaw that parts of the Bible. Number one, I don't see that happening. Church and state bullshit. But number two, this is what I've always wondered. I don't know. This is the definition of anti-Semitism. Literally, I just typed this in. The dictionary from Oxford Languages says anti-Semitism. It's a noun. Okay, I think that would be a verb. It's an action. How is this a noun? Hostility or prejudice. Those are verbs. Okay, whatever. hostility to or prejudice against Jewish people. That's all it is. That's all it is. And we live in...
It's very vague, right?
Well, we live in a world...
Yeah.
Wait, Scott, why'd you take that hostile tone with me just now? That's literally how much pussies that we are. This is the new... Racism, to my knowledge, when I was younger, was defined as someone believes... It's the belief that a race is superior or inferior to another. Now it's all the way, it's just like this. It's vague. It's anything. This has no, you literally can breathe and just, Jew. Did you say Jew? You're an anti-Semite. It's literally what they have.
Yeah. There's no laws specifically against anti-black.
No.
There's no law specifically against anti-Arab. There's no law specifically against anti-Hispanic. And we obviously know there's no laws against anti-white, but it's actually encouraged. But my point is, this is the only group of people where they are creating a law that specifically targets one group of people specifically that you cannot criticize or question or say anything bad about. Now, there's 38 states that have hate speech laws, quote unquote hate speech laws, but that's like subjective to whatever they believe, whoever the judge in court, or they can prove that you did some sort of hate speech thing. And I'm not sure how that is adjudicated in any way, but anti-Semitism is the only one that specifically targets one group of people as a piece of legislation that you will now be in. Again, multiple states have this. Texas has it. South Dakota has it. Florida has it. A couple other states have it. That one group of people or that one country, you cannot criticize, and you will be prosecuted under the law in certain aspects, like Florida, anti-BDS law. You can't even boycott Israeli companies or Israeli products. You can boycott any other fucking country's business you want, but not Israel.
Florida, have you been to Florida? Been to around Florida? Florida's...
I've never been there.
Florida is extremely... there's a big Jewish population in Florida. My wife has family in Boca Raton. There's a lot of Jews down there. I would like to get an actually working definition of what is anti-Semitism instead of that just vague, having a harsh tone or something like that. It's just an actual working definition of what it is to be anti-Semitic. Because if Matt and I are just discussing history and I bring up that these people have been kicked out of 109 countries 1,030 times, is that historical evidence or facts that we bring to the table? Would that be considered anti-Semitic?
Under the ADL's working definition of anti-Semitism, it would be.
But if it's true, why?
You're even questioning it.
Because you're telling facts that would lead people to believe that this other group of people is evil or destructive towards any culture or any aspect of your way of life or your country. And again, it's almost as if a criminal... Imagine if a rapist was in charge of the government and he said, you're not allowed to criticize rape. Well, of course, because you're criticizing your master.
Right.
Your master does not want to be criticized, so they make laws where you can't criticize them. There's an old quote, and it's not by Voltaire, it's by somebody else, and I forget, and it said, if you want to know who rules over you, just look at the ones who you are not allowed to criticize.
This is part of that. I want to play this audio, a little bit of this. This is the meaning and the origin of anti-Semitic.
Means to be a Jew.
He's showing
An important point to now make is that this is also why the term anti-Semitic is abused by today's Jews to manipulate social perceptions. It is an abuse because, first and foremost, the term doesn't apply in the way they make it apply to themselves. Anti-Semitic means against Shem. But who is Shem? The answer is that Shem was one of Noah's sons and the father of many peoples, such as the Babylonians, Persians, Arabs, and several others. To be anti-Semitic is to be against any of these peoples. Yet today's Jews appropriate this term only to themselves while creating new terms like Islamophobia for other Semitic peoples. This is wrong for at least two reasons. The first being that the Jews of today cannot reliably call themselves Semites or direct descendants of the tribe of Judah due to all of the historical context we just covered. The second reason is that even if they could, anti-Semitism doesn't apply just to people from the tribe of Judah. But even more interesting than all of this is the origin of the term anti-Semitism and its roots in Jewish Bolshevism. It is a fact that Karl Marx, one of the originators of communism, was born a Jew and grandson to two rabbis. Nevertheless, Marx was in practice an atheist. Leon Trotsky, a major figure of the Bolshevik Revolution, was also an atheist Jew. Stalin, who everybody knows, was also part Jewish and entrenched in the Jewish community. Stalin's official ethnicity was Georgian, but there is evidence he was part Ossetian, which was a group of people around Georgia and Russia. Why this is important is because Stalin's surname, Zhugashvili, was a Georgianized Ossetian version of Djugashvili. In Ossetian, the word dzug means herd, while dzuga means Jew. Shvili in Georgian means son of, so Djugashvili means either son of a herd or son of a Jew. Most of Stalin's relatives were also married or related to Jews. Catherine Svandice, his first wife, had a brother named Alexander Svandice, who was married to a Jewess, Maria Kogan, from a rich Jewish family. Stalin's sister-in-law, Anna Haliluyeva, married Stanislav Redins, who was Jewish. Stalin's eldest son, Jacob, married Judith Meltzer, who was also Jewish. Stalin's daughter, Svetlana, married a Jew named Grigory Morozov. More facts about the Jews and communism are as follows. Lazar Kaganovich, another top Bolshevik leader, was a Jew. Lenin, who is also well known like Stalin and Trotsky, likely had Jewish descent from his grandparents. In fact, most of the heads of the secret police, Gulag administrators, and famous Bolshevik terrorists were all Jews. When communism spread to China and the surrounding areas, about 80 to 90% of those coordinating the efforts were Jews. Why all of this matters is that the term anti-Semite or anti-Semitic did not exist up until the 20th century. For the countless times that the Jews were overthrown and destroyed by pagan empires, or later when they were expelled from European countries and banned, not a single time was the word anti-Semitic ever used by anyone, Jew or Gentile. So, what changed? The answer is Bolshevism. Just like the CIA.
So he's going to continue into it. And I tell you, this documentary is absolutely friggin' fantastic.
Which one? Which documentary is that?
This is Why the Jews Are Not God's Chosen People. It's by the Dance of Life podcast. It's a fantastic. The amount of facts that this guy put up online with corresponding documentation. I was like, I was riveted, absolutely riveted. It boils down to one thing that me, the middle American, who, I don't dive into this much, I get outraged over. Wow, you manipulative effing victims, you professional victims who steal to elevate yourselves while vilifying other people. It's a brilliant tactic that they got all of us to be just sympathetic to lies and manipulation and half-truths and shit. I thought about something the other day as I was driving that I wanted to ask, because you're a historian. I loved growing up World War II generation. I used to love documentaries. I've seen Band of Brothers, God knows how many times, all that. And like anything else now, all of that has been ruined for me because I don't know what the truth is anymore. I have a question, because Band of Brothers kind of put this question in my mind. It wasn't until like the eighth episode of that, 8th or 9th, or whatever it was, where they discovered the concentration camps. And I was thinking about this the other day. I'm going, but wait a second. When I was in grammar school, we were told we went to fight the Allies. We went to fight the Axis powers to free Jews who were in concentration camps. That's what we were told. It dawned on me. I have no idea why we even got into World War II in the first place. What did we engage in that war for? Because my whole life has been, well, it was to go and it was to get Hitler out of power because he was killing a race. That's not true. That's not true. That's not why we got involved in the war. What was the reason?
Well, again, it's same with the World War I thing. They didn't want Germany ended up becoming a superpower. They became very, very self-reliant. Again, whenever Hitler took power in 1933, he got rid of the international banking cartels that have been infiltrating all of the countries, right? We even had the Federal Reserve tied right to the Rothschild International Banking Cartel. The Bank of London, which is obviously in Great Britain, is the head of that. That's the headquarters. There's one in Paris. There was one in Frankfurt, Germany. All the Rothschild subsidiaries have all these international banks, right? They have all these global banking institutions. Hitler got rid of that, and his economy, as you know, Dominic, was the #1 in the world during the Great Depression. You no longer are capable, you're no longer tied to that international banking cartel. They printed their own money based on their own labor. That is detrimental to the international banking cartel, because now other countries are going to follow suit. Again, you had Italy, you had Japan, right? And again, they could not defeat Germany with just Great Britain and France. So in order to do this, they needed a pretense for America to come into the war. So what they did was they used Japan and the entire false flag of Pearl Harbor to do it, which doesn't even make sense on itself, Dominic, because if you're going to do that and Japan attacked us, then why the fuck would you go to war with Germany?
Yeah.
Just go to war with Japan. Again, you have to look and see who was in the presidential cabinet of FDR. You had 2 Stalin spies. One was Harry Dexter White. He was actually in the Treasury Department of the FDR administration, a known card-carrying communist. Harry Dexter White, also Jewish. Bernard Baruch was in his cabinet. Another Jew who was a millionaire. He's the one who bailed out Winston Churchill. You had Winston Churchill controlled by a group of large billionaire industrialists. They're called the Focus Group. Henry Straykoch, Jewish millionaire gold mining magnate. You had Robert Willie Cohen. He was the CEO and owner of the Shell Corporation. He financed Churchill. Bernard Baruch bailed him out in the stock market crash. All these guys are beholden, these world leaders are beholden to the Jewish oligarchs. And they didn't like Germany for obvious reasons. So they wanted to take them out. And without America's help, and I will say this is my opinion, Hitler would have won that war if it wasn't for American involvement. They would have won that war. He could have totally taken out the Soviet Union. Great Britain would have had no chance. They already retreated after Dunkirk. France had already capitulated. If it wasn't for America, Hitler would have won that war, and you would not have this homo fucking globalist international Marxism, as far as I'm concerned, in the world today.
Well, even before we got into the war, we were funding the Soviets. Was it the Lend-Lease Act?
Lend-Lease Act happened in March of 1941. We started funding, financing, giving tanks, giving airplanes, fighter jets, weapons, munitions, blankets, boots, all to
the communist Soviet Union.
And Great Britain, but the communist Soviet Union got it as well. So after that, we declared war on the United States after Japan attacked because Hitler was having a problem in Operation Barbarossa fighting the Bolsheviks on the Eastern Front due to the fact that America was funding them, arming them, and everything else.
This is a key word. I want to. You brought something up, the Lend-Lease Act. I want to bring up a key word here. The Lend-Lease Act law was passed in 1941 that allowed the United States to provide war supplies to allied nations without expecting repayment.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and what Matt said is very key here. What we were talking about post-World War I, Germany was absolutely devastated. You had about a 50%. You can find all this, folks. I'm going to say the documentary. It's Europa, the Last Battle. You can find it on BitChute.com. But it goes into detail on all of this. But what you're looking at post-World War I, Germany was absolutely devastated. They had about a 50% unemployment rate. And here, this guy comes along, and then the government that was set up there was called Weimar. It was called the Weimar Republic, and it was horrible. You had mass prostitution, you had mass crime, you had this push of degeneracy,
mass inflation,
and here this gentleman comes along.
Who's that sound like, though,
were
Scott?
taught in school.
Who's that? What does that sound like, though? Everything you just described.
The state of affairs in our country today.
Yeah.
So when you look at this gentleman who's a nationalist, he was very proud of his country and very proud of the German people. He comes in and he cleans up the country a bit. He gets rid of all of this degeneracy, and he gets rid of the central bank. And that's where it all began. As soon as if you were to show the world that a country can survive without a central bank, without the printing of money, they can back their currency by gold, or back their currency, in the case of Hitler, he backed his currency by labor. And you have the solutions that he gave. Weimar conditions require Weimar solutions. And the solutions that he gave was kicking the root of the problem out of the country that he found. And here, I didn't know this. This isn't taught at schools growing up in our public school system. But here in 1938 or 1939, I believe, Time Magazine's Man of the Year was Adolf Hitler. Here he turned around this country to the point where this is still during a depression. You're talking about a world depression, economic depression. And Germany now, within a 5-year span, has become the world economic power.
So what do? You vilify your enemy who's making your country better. What a great way. It's the simplest shit for ignorant people who opt or make their decisions on emotions, right? You take Hitler, and again, what he says, and all it took for me was to listen to his translated speech in English, and I went, where's he talking about eradicating all these people and the master race and the blue-eyed blonde hair people? He's talking about being a nationalist, his country thriving, asking other countries, why is it that we are receiving X amount of people when we have X amount of people ourselves per square foot, but you guys have 2 people per square foot. We've got 130. It blows me away how all he was talking about was improving his country. So if he improved his country, and everyone's like, dude, fuck this guy. They could play the women's playbook. Oh, he raped me. Anytime a woman claims a man sexually assaults or rapes her, his reputation is over, even if 10 years later she goes, I lied, I was pissed. Nothing ever happens to her. So they did the same thing to Hitler. Hey, let's go and claim he wants to eradicate a people. But now you have to follow that up, right? Now you got to create some shit. Otherwise, you get people looking at us going, well, you're anti-Semite because the gas chambers are there. The claw marks are on the walls. And they've dug it. All this shit. You're lying. It blows me away how stupid we are for swallowing every shit sandwich they serve up for us.
Dominic, you posted the video. I think you even played it with Lola on your program of the Jewish rabbi admitting to all of this. Remember, the Jewish rabbi said, oh, Hitler got rid of interest. He got rid of pornography, all that stuff. He got rid of that, the communists. And he admitted Jews were behind all of it. This is a rabbi admitting it. There's multiple rabbis that have come out on video admitting. So this isn't me saying this or you saying this. Jews openly admit this, of what happened. They openly admit it.
There's like memes out there where there's like a guy calling for let's outlaw usury and let's outlaw pornography. And it's like the Bateman guy, Yeah. And he's like, cool with the anti-Semitic talk, huh?
And that's it. So again, this isn't not like we're saying this. They openly admit this on camera. They openly admit this. And again, the first country to pass anti-Semitism laws was the communist Soviet Union under Stalin, I believe in 1931, 32. He passed the first anti-Semitism law. This was Joseph Stalin. Well, that's weird. Why would he pass an anti-Semitism law in the Soviet Union? To your point, to your documentary you just showed, 90% of the leading Bolsheviks that were in power in high key positions were Jewish. Trotsky, Kamenev, Kaganovich, Yagoda, Frankel, Radek, Litnikov. I can name a million of them. All of them in key positions. It wasn't a Russian revolution. This was a Jewish revolution of the country of Russia.
Yeah, you have the article that Winston Churchill wrote, you said, I believe in 1922.
1920. It was on
1920.
February 8th, 1920 in the Sunday Evening Herald. The title of the article was Bolshevism versus Zionism, quote, the struggle for the Jewish soul. Winston Churchill wrote this because the Bolshevik Revolution had just happened right around World War I, and this is post-World War I when he wrote the article.
Right. So here, growing up, getting the same, public education that everyone got our age. Matt and I are in our 40s. Dominic, I believe you're turning 50 this year, correct? March 15th?
Yeah.
We'll throw that out there for everybody. Yeah. March 15th, Dominic Izzo will be 50. Put that on your calendar, folks. But here, we're taught who the bad guys are. We're taught who the good guys are. World War II is referred to as the good war. And we were the good guys. They were the bad guys. Hitler was this maniacal, evil, hell-bent on power and destruction, wanted to eradicate these people and also build a master race. That's the overarching theme of the World War II. And here for a guy, both my grandparents served my grandparents on both sides served in World War II. Both my grandpas did. And you have to remove the emotional attachment to history. When you review history, you have to look at just the facts and what the facts are. And you start asking questions. Why was this this information not put out there? Why wasn't I able to know that FDR had 10 quote unquote concentration camps here in the United States? That was never taught to me. And it was never taught to me that he moved the Sixth Fleet down to Hawaii, which almost enticed Japan to attack Pearl Harbor. That was not really taught to me either. There's a lot of things that aren't put out there. You're only given one side of the story. And was Hitler a saint? No. But he's not this monster that he's made out to be in our public school system here that we're taught. He's not this, evil guy that's trying to kill this one particular group of people. And here, when you look at things, this group of people throughout history, and this is just the facts, this group of people throughout history goes into countries, host countries that they're not a part of. They go into these host countries and they take advantage of the good nature and the goodwill of the people, the host country, and then they go in and they assert the financial dominance. They go into media, they go into obviously finance, but they go into politics. They get into positions of authority, positions of leadership, but specifically money, and they control it through money. And they've done it throughout history, and that's why these people keep getting kicked out of these countries. If these people could just come into a country and live peaceably with the host nation, the host people, that'd be one thing. But the problem is their religion doesn't allow them to. Their religion specifically says that they are allowed to do these things to non-Jews. That's the problem. The religion, the superiority, this supremacy ideology that they take with them everywhere
from the Old Testament
is the problem. That's the issue here.
Do you ever notice how we glorify, like in my culture, I was talking to Sal Greco the other day. We did a podcast. We were both cops and we're both Italian. And we're kind of talking about the fact that neither one of us really loved or embraced our culture's like mob history. And I just never did as a kid. I didn't really, I think I have a love-hate relationship with movies like Goodfellas and Casino and all that shit. And it's like, and I understand that in Chicago, it was really rampant out here and some things did run better, but we vilify this shit out of almost the same practice that Jews did, extortion. Mobs that's what they did. It was extorted insurance. You got a store, you're going to pay me X amount out of your till every week to keep shit from happening in your store. And then if you don't pay or if you get a loan from me to support your habit, you got VIG, right? You're going to pay X amount of points on this. But we vilify that. But when it comes down to what the Jews are doing, it's lawful practices that they get away with all the time. It just blows me away how you cannot ever, even saying that is anti-Semitic. Nothing. Yeah. They take accountability for nothing. You were talking about history and whatnot. I want to put some levity into this. One of my favorite movies growing up as a kid was Monty Python, A Meaning of Life, if you will. And one of the favorite scenes was when Terry Jones dressed up as the fat guy. And he has a little bit of a wafer at the end of his dinner. And for those who remember, it didn't bode too well in his right. But now John Cleese, who was the waiter who gave him the wafer, is sitting with Terry Jones, who's now in drag, cleaning up the blood and the guts and the puke and all this. And I want to play this clip because Terry Jones explains what the meaning of life is with a punchline back in 1983. I'm surprised he got away with.
You know, Maria, I sometimes wonder if we'll ever discover the meaning of it all, working in a place like this.
I've worked in worse places, philosophically speaking.
Really, Maria?
Yes. I used to work in the Académie Française, but it didn't do me any good at all. And I once worked in the library in the Prado in Madrid, but it didn't teach me nothing, I recall. And the Library of Congress, you'd have thought, would hold some key, but it didn't. And neither did the Bodleian Library. In the British Museum, I hoped to find some clue. I worked there from 9 till 6, read every volume through, but it didn't teach me nothing about life's mystery. I just kept getting older. It got more difficult to see, till eventually me eyes went and me arthritis got bad. And so now I'm cleaning up in here. But I can't be really sad, because you see, I feel that life's a game. You sometimes win or lose. And though I may be down right now, at least I don't work for Jews.
Back then, I remember watching that and that punchline, and I'm going, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. But even these men, as learned and as educated and as brilliant as writers as they were, they knew to slip that shit in.
Yeah, well, under comedy, I guess you can get away with it sometimes. Family Guy gets away with it.
All the time.
South Park very mildly gets away with it. But usually you don't. Now, back then, you can get away with it a lot more. If you even look at the Montel Williams show, that was a talk show back in the 90s, Phil Donahue, 80s and 90s, they actually had revisionist historians on who would talk about the Holocaust. And now you will not find that anymore. In the 1990s, they nipped that in the bud. They will not allow that, and you will never see that again.
Well, I think that's the problem with TikTok that they're seeing now in this younger generation, which is why I think you're seeing this push for these BDS laws and these Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, HR Bill 6090, because they're polling the younger generation here, the TikTokers, the Zoomer generation, and a lot of them, I mean, this is like an outstanding, like crazy numbers. It's like over 50% of the younger generation coming up has no idea what the Holocaust is or like details of the Holocaust. And a lot of these college kids and college campuses, the reason why, again, they're trying to put these laws out here is because the majority of college campuses, on the majority of college campuses, a lot of these college kids are pro-Palestinian because they can see what's going on TikTok specifically. Yeah. They can see what's going on in Gaza, and they're seeing an injustice happening. And they're going, whoa. This is crazy what's happening right here. And then you see that TikTok recently just banned the hashtag Free Palestine.
Yeah, you'll get deleted if you put Free Palestine on TikTok now. You'll get banned.
And that makes sense why there was a push there to get rid of TikTok. Because, again, if you go to TikTok and you type in certain things, and for a while there, Matt brought this up on the previous podcast, the number one trending audio for like 4 or 5 days was the AI translated Hitler speech.
Yeah, that's where I got it from. Yeah, I couldn't believe it, and I had to go to different sites to make sure it was true. I played it for my father, and I'm going, this is insane. This is insane. The lie. What else were we lied about? And the way that I look at it is to keep coming back to this topic. It's like, I'm not. There's no obsession with this. This is every single person should be outraged at the lie you were told. Right. What did we learn? Tucker Carlson put out 2 years ago that he had some confirmed whistleblower from within the CIA who says that there is no doubt There is factual evidence that our own government was involved in the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And no one's like, okay, cool. It's like, wait a second. You should be beyond outraged that your own government assassinated a president. If you find out that your own government was involved with the bombing of Pearl Harbor, with the Twin Towers fall, you should be outraged. But we are so stupid as humans. We just go, no, that's cool, whatever. But for some reason, when it doesn't affect us, when it's overseas, and you started to see that, like when France had that bombing like 5-6 years ago, and everybody changed their flags on their Facebook page to the French flag. It's like they started to see, people are so much quicker to show empathy and support and outrage when it comes to shit that's happening 6,000 miles away. Let's do that more. I think that the racist angle isn't working anymore. I think that the LGBTQ, it really isn't working anymore. I think that the anti-Semitic shit, it's going to work well. It's going to work very well because it's intangible. So they're going to play that hard and they're going to keep us hitting it. But when all you have to do is present this facts, proof to people, and they don't want to believe it. They don't want to listen to it. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to see it. It's like truth is dangerous for people to recognize.
Yeah, I think even the anti-Semitism thing is losing power. And here's why I believe that. The whole anti-Semitism like claim or label or assertion they put on people, it's losing so much power, Dominic, which is why they're making laws against it. Because now people don't cuck to it anymore. They don't submit to it anymore. More and more people don't give a shit what they're called. As again, I can quote Bane from The Dark Knight. This gives you power over me? It doesn't. It has no more power over these people, which is why they have to create laws now. Oh, you want to be an anti-Semite? Well, we're not just going to call you bad names because, obviously that doesn't work. We're going to penalize you and punish you legally if you say anything anti-Semitic. Again, there's only one historical event on the planet Earth that it's illegal in 20 countries across the planet, to where if you question it or disagree with it, you go to prison. And that's the Holocaust. That's the only historical event.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, if you just give me an actual definition instead of a vague thing, because it is very vague. Like if you're saying, hey, if you're calling for violence, which Thomas Massey, when he said, hey, we voted on this bill today, HR Bill 6090 was the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act. He goes, the language in there is just very vague. He goes, I agreed with one section, and that was a call for violence against any particular race or group of people. Got it. That's
illegal already.
That's fair.
It's already illegal.
And we're in agreement with that. But if I'm here criticizing, saying the banking practices of a certain group of people and saying, you know what, 27% interest rate's too high. All of a sudden it's like, oh, that's anti-Semitic. No, I just think that usury is wrong. And usury has been illegal in Christian countries for centuries. Yep. And yet here we are, and there's, people throughout the country. We used to have a joke back in the day that young privates and PFCs coming out of boot camp would get a Mustang or a Dodge Charger at 28% interest rate. That is usury. That should be illegal. What you're doing is putting a death grip on somebody where they're never going to be able to get out of it. They're never going to be able to get out.
Which is why you're called a Nazi if you're against it. Why? Because Hitler got rid of interest rates.
He did.
Hitler got rid of the prostitution, pornography, LGBT propaganda.
He gave interest-free loans out.
Yeah.
He gave interest-free loans out.
You all these things that he was anti-communist, anti-Marxist. Well, you're just like Hitler. And since if you can successfully paint a group of people and a leader of that group of people in history as the most evil people and person that had ever lived, and everyone's brainwashed to it, then no one's going to want to be like that no matter what. So if you say you're like Hitler if you do this, I don't want to be like Hitler, so okay, charge me 30% interest. Prostitution should be illegal. Oh, well, then it's just like Hitler. Okay, well, sorry. You're a fascist.
Pornography, listen, we're all guys here. And at some point in our life, right, we've all, viewed pornography. We've all viewed porn. Sure. Dominic, you've made it known you have some
Is
affection
it a
for
fucking day ending in Y? Where's my Diamond Jackson?
But I think we can agree that pornography really doesn't do anything good for you.
It does
in your
fucking
mind.
nothing. It is the worst shit on the fucking planet. If you think video game time is bad, porn time is worse. Oh, that took me 10 minutes to finish. You've been fapping for fucking 3 hours. It's the worst thing in the world. I found,
but it's readily available everywhere. By the way,
oh my
you
God.
go on Twitter, you go everywhere.
People do not understand. And I have such a hard fucking time. I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago. My cousin's husband and I got in it was a good, healthy argument. We kept it very respectful because we never talk about politics. But he's pro students having safe space to express their trans issue in grammar school and whatnot. And my view is, there is no way in hell a child should have anything in school that is taught to them even remotely intimately sexual related. I don't care. Well, what about the students who have 2 dads? Keep it out of fucking school. End of story. When I was a kid, my second sister wasn't even born yet. So it was like 82. I knew where Uncle V kept his porn. He kept magazines in the bathroom behind the fucking towels under the cabinet. And little 8-year-old me is there scrolling through images that I don't understand. We used to have Choice Video was the name of it before Blockbuster was a thing in 82, 81, 82. And I remember my dad walked ahead of me. And back then, the adult films, the VHSs were kept behind the counter. So you'd have to go to a catalog and then walk up and go, yeah, give me all holes filled with black cum and whatever. And there's this image I see of a woman, redhead, big breasts, and a giant fucking dick. And my dad closes the book not quickly enough so that I wouldn't see it. And I'm in my mind going, I don't understand this. I can't comprehend this. This is insane. Now, if I was that young back then and those images were not as readily available, what are we doing to kids today where you Google search something and it'll pop right up? Parents have zero protection against this. Nothing. I can't fathom what it's like to be a kid today with nonstop images of anything you want, videos of anything you want, massive desensitization, and just comply. You're making kids drooling, oatmeal-brained, very open to anything, debauchery, you name, suggestible kids. This generation is not, I don't think they're savable because of how easily access shit that they have.
And who's behind in the porn industry? When you look at, Pornhub, you look at Brazzers,
OnlyFans.
Look at OnlyFans. The creators of these sites and these apps, one of them, the original creator of Pornhub, was a rabbi.
He's a rabbi.
He was a rabbi, and it's almost like a tale as old as time when you look at the history of this group of people. And they come in and they culturally subvert you with ideology, and they come in, they take over spaces like education. They take over finance, which we've said on repeat. They take over media. They take over your news. They're putting out. They're in control of a lot here, and here we are subject to it, and we don't do anything yet. When you look at the history and you say, 109 countries, 1,030 times, and you bring that up, well, you're being anti-Semitic, Scott. Well, this is just the facts, and I don't see the countries kicking out these people as the problem. Well, these countries, they had a poor view of these people. I see the people as the problem. We have to look and say, hey, look, now I already hear it. Well, not all. That's what I have to hear all the time. Well, not all Jews, Scott, not all. I'm like, okay. This is real quick, and I'll turn it over to Maddie here. I've said this on our podcast multiple times, but for years, I sat with my dad during the Obama administration, and I thought to myself, at the very least, Barack Obama, whose real name was Barry Soetoro, he changed his name from Barry Soetoro to Barack Obama. The only way you do that is if you convert. In my head at that time, I'm in my late 20s, and I'm thinking to myself, I look at Lou Alcindor, he changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I look at Muhammad Ali, he changed his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali, so I'm thinking to myself, this guy's Muslim. And, of course, it's post 9/11. I got out of the Marine Corps, and here I have a negative view of Islam and Muslims. I'll admit it. I had a negative view of Islam and Muslims. And I thought to myself, and I railed on Obama for 8 years. And here my dad's sitting next to me because he's a Christian Zionist and pro-Israel, and he's loving probably every minute of it. And here I show my dad a few clips from Europa, the Last Battle. I showed him a clip from Matt did an interview with a historian named James Perloff, an older gentleman, very bright guy, breaking down World War I, World War II. And I'm showing him different things. And within 15 minutes, now again, I just said I railed on Islam and Muslims for 8 years. And within 15 minutes, my dad, said, Scott, are you becoming anti-Semitic? During the 8 years, he never once said, hey, are you becoming Islamophobic? And then here I showed him a couple more things. And he goes, well, it's not all Jews, Scott. And I said, well, Dad, for 8 years I railed on Islam. You never once said, well, it's not all Muslims. Not all. But here, in this situation, especially Christians, there's a need here to come to the defense of these people from the general population, and specifically Christians, because of that historical tale that we've been taught, that's been ingrained in us. We've had to kind of sympathize with all these poor people. They were, just rounded up for no reason. And stuff like this, it's like, dude, it's hard for me anymore to wrap my head around.
It's very easy. It's very easy to wrap your head around. And then to confirm, too, YouTube scrubbed it. They scrubbed it. But 2008, there were several videos of Obama teaching about the Holy Quran and speaking. I mean, he was fluent in how he spoke. I was like, oh, my God, the dialect, 100%. He's Muslim. He even said it, of my Muslim faith, my Christian faith, whatever. But when it comes down to this, I've said this a million times. Americans, man, we're big, we're bad, we're all this shit. You portray a people as needy and helpless and weak, and we rush to their fucking aid. How many strong, archetypal Jewish characters do we have that we look at in either film, nonfiction, sports, that we go, wow, yeah, that's the idol. We don't have strong Jewish figures. They all present themselves, not all. Okay, what we got? Bill Goldberg as one. They all present themselves. Superman. Yeah, Roethlisberger, another one. They present themselves.
He's adopted.
Now they present themselves as what? Weak and frail and in need of protection, and we rush to their aid.
Yeah. Well, not only that, Dominic, it's the victim status.
Yes.
Not that you're weak. Something bad has happened to you. We must now feel sorry for you. And then this is perpetuated and promoted through what's called atrocity propaganda or trauma-based mind control. Holocaust narrative is the perfect example of this. Look what the evil Nazis did to these people. Now, obviously, we know that this thing has been completely debunked for anybody that wants to look into it, right? And we're not saying they weren't rounded up. Of course they were. To Scotty's point earlier, we rounded up Japanese. We rounded up Italians. We rounded up Germans. They rounded up Italians in Great Britain. Don't even get me fucking started on Stalin and Lenin and Trotsky rounding up millions of people and actually executing them or forcing them to die through famine. Don't even get me fucking started on that. But to your point, there's only one country that gets prosecuted with that charge, and that's 1930s Germany and Adolf Hitler. Even though we know that the numbers are completely impossible, the gas chamber hoax has been completely exposed, they didn't exist, and all the other ridiculous tales. But again, if you control the media and entertainment industry, you put that out there day in, day out, going through the soft minds of Americans and all Westerners, then they're going to believe it. And again, if you go to jail for speaking out against it in 17 European countries, in Canada, in Australia, and in Russia, believe it or not, you go to prison. So it's all of this coupled with that. It's not just the weak, frail thing. It's the victimhood status. And again, done by force through legislation, not being allowed to talk about it. And it's done through atrocity propaganda and trauma-based mind control. There's not one motherfucking movie I've ever seen. I'm not saying they don't exist. There's not one Hollywood movie that has the forced starvation of 10 million Christian Ukrainians in the Holodomor. Not one. There's no movies on that. And that is the worst genocide. And that's just 1 year, 1932, 1933. That doesn't include the 30 million Russians, Latvians, Georgians, Lithuanians, Ukrainians, 30 million killed or starved to death through the Bolshevik Communist Soviet Union from its inception to the year before World War II started. Not one fucking Netflix series, not one fucking Amazon series, not one History Channel special, not one Hollywood movie.
When did, let's see, the Holocaust occurred between 39 and 45, right? Yeah, that's what it says here.
Holocaust? Yeah, I guess, technically.
Mao Zedong.
They didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
Mao Zedong's regime was from 1949 to 1976, and he terminated anywhere between 40 to 70 million people. Yep. I've never seen a movie on that.
Revolution.
I've never seen a movie on that.
Mao Zedong, Pol Pot. Pol Pot's another one in the Southeast Asia.
Joseph Stalin.
Joseph Stalin.
Yeah, 20
and Lenin get a free pass.
23.
So does Mao Zedong.
Same era. Joseph Stalin's communist regime, although lesser known evil, the horror committed under Joseph Stalin's rule of Soviet Union claimed between 23 and 50 million lives. There's historians that have it over 60 million. Okay, so that it goes, but how are Russians portrayed? You got to take a cinder block to a Russian's head to knock him out. They always portray Russians as strong and big and able to overcome anything. How do they portray the Asians? Fucking tough, right? Chopsaki, man, gonna go to town on your Wing Chun ass. All that shit. How do they portray anyone else when it comes to the Jews? Oh, poor me. Start playing John Williams' score to Schindler's List so it attacks your nervous system and you feel that empathy. I'm telling you, it is just brilliant. It's feel sorry for me. And you automatically have this innate thing where you want to just protect and serve and I'll never let it happen to you. It is human nature to do this. And that's what they do. That is exactly what they do.
That's what trauma-based mind control and atrocity propaganda is. That's exactly what it is, what you're describing. That's the name for it. I just gave the name. It's trauma-based mind control. This is why you don't have movies about Mao Zedong killing 50 million people or Pol Pot killing millions of people. You don't have it. You don't have Stalin, Trotsky, Lenin killing 50, 60 million people. You don't have it. Because you know who's fucking behind it. They're communists. Communism gets a pass. The most evil, fucking, slaughterous, destructive, disgusting ideology to ever exist on the planet Earth. Even if you agree with the bullshit 6 million number from Hitler, it still outdoes it. And there's still not one motherfucking movie, not one History Channel special, not one Netflix series, nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's by design. It's on purpose, though, there. We're not going to get... again, you brought this up, Matt. It's a great point. If let's say we go out for Halloween, and I'm dressed like Joseph Stalin, do you think anybody's going to have a problem with that?
No, they don't even know who the fuck you are.
But if you dress like Hitler...
I'll be fucking thrown in prison.
there will be some outrage there. Yet... when you look at the statistics behind what they did, obviously there's no argument that Joseph Stalin and the communist Soviet Union was way more evil and atrocious in the atrocities that they committed than Nazi Germany 1930.
And we sided with them.
That's
so here's a problem then. If we look at the past and we see tactics that were used, that were done, what do we now need to do to keep our eyes open to watch? I don't care if it's Trump's presidency or if Biden did under his or the next one's coming up. What do we need to be on the lookout for tactics that are going to do the same repeatable shit that happened back in that era? Who should we be concerned about with his cabinet assignments or who he puts into power that we're all just going, yay, somebody's a Trumper, but they have a dual allegiance and all their statements are Israel's our greatest ally. What do we need to be on the lookout for?
Well, Pete Hegseth is one that bothers me. And look, even his military background and his military service, which on face value, one should like that as an American or especially a veteran. You see a lot of these guys like Tim Kennedy coming behind him. Even a gentleman that's on Spreely TV, Sean Parnell, who ran for Congress here. He's got a show on Spreely called Battleground with Sean Parnell. He campaigned with Trump. Parnell's an ex, I believe, Ranger. These guys are backing Pete Hegseth because, and they quote, they're war fighters, right? War fighters for Pete Hegseth. The language, though, that Pete Hegseth uses when it comes to talking about Israel is one that should alarm everybody when he says that our interests are interlinked, that Israel and American interests are interlinked. I don't want to be interlinked with any country when it comes to interests and protecting the American people and its interests. When you say America first, that doesn't mean America and Israel too, or America and the UK too, or America and Australia, or America and Norway. We have a lot of great allies throughout the world. You know, we do training in Norway. We do, training with Norwegian Army. We do training with the Aussies. We'll go over to Thailand and we'll train with the Thai Army. We'll do a lot of that stuff. But there is only one country here where we see over and over again evidence of politicians with dual citizenship who have this background, that have this affection for this foreign country, so much so that they're saying that the two are interlinked. And when Pete Hegseth comes and he goes and gives a speech at the King David Hotel in Jerusalem, and he's salivating over the opportunity about building the third temple, which for Judaism, that's signaling the coming of their Messiah,
Antichrist,
which would be the Christian Antichrist, would be the Christian Antichrist. So, and we spoke about this recently too, where it's like, for Christian prophecy to be fulfilled, Jewish prophecy has to be fulfilled first. So some of these Christians that are out there, like a Pete Hegseth, celebrates the idea of Jewish prophecy being fulfilled, because that means then that Christian prophecy will be fulfilled.
Which means you are basically wanting and desiring the end of the world.
So yeah, you want Jewish supremacy.
Which means Christianity. Yeah, Christianity at this point is a death cult.
So to answer that question on my side, Matt, I would say language like that when they're talking about fulfilling biblical prophecy, like if you're a true Christian, Dominic, you're not going out there trying to fulfill prophecy on your own. If you believe in the prophecy and the prophets of the Bible, there's nothing you can do to fulfill. These prophecies are going to be fulfilled. We as humans, men, can't do anything on our own to make Christ come any faster. We can't do anything to make him come any faster.
Look at the last several years on social media, of which is on the back of my book, and I wish to God I could change it, but I can't. How many people out there started using hashtag of warrior for Christ, God's warrior? And it hit me one day, a couple of years ago. I'm like, what fucking arrogance do I have thinking he needs me? Oh yeah, God can't solve this shit on earth without you being one of his warriors. That's another great ploy to get Christians thinking they're a part of something. It's like the war is already won. We're so delusional that we're going to step in and kind of fight this battle. It's hilarious. I want to point this out because we talk about this all the time. This is the ignorance, like my non-awareness, literal ignorance of what we do for our greatest ally to date. No one's been, and just because my stance right now, just because I'm anti-Israel right now, doesn't mean I'm pro-Palestine. I don't know anything about Palestine. I haven't gone down that route. I'm not condemning one because I'm supporting another. I'm condemning one because of how it affects me. And how it affects me is, since in 1999, the U.S. government signed a commitment to provide Israel with at least $2.7 billion in military aid annually for 10 years. In 2009, it was raised to $3 billion. And in 2019, it was raised to a minimum of $3.8 billion. So that's 20 years have gone by so far. My question to one of you gentlemen, who's so much more knowledgeable than I am, for the 25 years now of $3 billion a year on average going to that country, what the fuck has Israel done for Americans? Because
Absolutely
I know
nothing.
Okay. I know we have homeless here.
Okay, here's what they done. They blew up our Twin Towers. They spied on us, gave secrets to China. Jonathan Pollard, Israeli spy that got caught. You have all these. They gave us pornography. They gave us pedophilia. They gave us Jeffrey Epstein with bribing and blackmailing government officials. This is what they gave us. I'm not saying they're beneficial gifts, but they are gifts nonetheless that have hurt our country. And they give us massive inflation. They've given us the Sackler family in charge of OxyContin. So they've given us OxyContin, which, by the way, is a pain-killing drug that is made from what? Opium. Where are all the opium fields? Oh, Afghanistan. That's funny. We went to war in Afghanistan. That's funny. What else have they given us, Scotty? Oh, Moderna. They gave us Pfizer and Moderna. They gave us the vaccine. They gave us the nice vaccine for COVID that Trump still praises to this day. Pfizer and Moderna, both owned by bell ringers, including Stephen Bancel of Moderna and Anthony Borla of Pfizer. That's what they've given us. And if you go ahead and look at the business that we do with Israel, export and import, this is a funny thing. So here's what I'm going to tell you. The number one export Israel exports to the United States. Do any of you guys know the number one export they give to the United States?
No, I don't.
Dominic?
Not a clue.
Diamonds. Diamonds.
I said last week. Go ahead.
Hold on. Do you know the number one export we give to Israel?
Military.
Every year.
It'd be
not that's included in the budget.
Okay.
I'm talking about business. Do you know the number one export we give to Israel every year?
No.
Take a guess. Anybody?
I
Diamonds. Please explain that to me, Scotty
A
Sievers.
rock.
$14 billion worth of business, and that's the number one fucking thing we give them.
Are diamonds used in technology at all? I legitimately don't know.
It doesn't matter what they're used for. Why are we importing diamonds number one product, and why are we exporting diamonds number one product?
Why the fuck are we
fucking explain that?
Putting a value on it. I said this before. What do we call that? Jewelry. I fucking said
yes.
And who?
Yes.
If you go to New York or Chicago, who operates all these De Beers and Diamonds Are Forever K Jewelers and shit?
There's a movie made on that. There's Adam Sandler had a movie about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to play some of this audio I dug up. This is not the audio that Lola and I played, but this is a different one I didn't get to play yet. I haven't heard this yet. We're going to check this out really quick.
When God gave us the Torah, the Gentiles were jealous of us. They feel that we think we're elitist. We think we're the chosen people, which, by the way, we are. We do think we're elitist. We are the chosen people. They think that we think only we are the children of God, and we do think that. And we're not embarrassed to say, only the Jewish people are the children of God. The nations of the world are not the children of God. They're not God's children. They're God's creations. They're created with Tselem Elohim. They're not God's children. And this creates a certain jealousy, and they don't like that. In other words, there's an ethnical reason. They feel that we are elitist, that we think of ourselves as better than them, which we do. And therefore, they hate us. What can we do? God selected us, you know? Yeah, good. God selected us. So these are the two reasons for anti-Semitism. One is what Rashi says. Rashi says, Amar Rav Shimon Echai, Halacha hi v'yadua, Se'esav Sainei liYaakov, that what's the reason for it? There's no reason. It is. God, the reason for anti-Semitism, according to Rashi, is that it's just a law. It's a law of nature. There's gravity, and there's, theory of relativity, and then there's anti-Semitism. And then on the other hand, you have this Gemara in Shabbos that the Gentiles hate us they feel that we think of ourselves as better.
These people, these who have these beliefs, they're so easily hateable. They're very easy to hate. Holy shit, dude. That's the definition of racism.
Yes. I mean, when you look at the ideology here and this religion, these Talmudic Jews, and it does stem from the Torah, because all the Talmud is an interpretation of the Torah. And these rabbis, and there's videos out there everywhere, these rabbis are they're blatant. They're open with what they believe, and it is a form of supremacy ideology. They believe that what's coursing through their veins and what's in their DNA is better than what's in ours, and it's because the books that are written by them tell them this.
Yeah. I think the only thing that is going to save this country, being 70% Christian the way it is if Christians finally realize to scrap the God of the Old Testament. They need to completely reject that God of the Old Testament as it had been defined back in the 1st century AD, and that is the evil imposter God, or the devil himself, as Jesus Christ admitted in John chapter 8. This is the only thing that's going to save this country. As long as Christians believe it's the same God, which Jesus Christ said it wasn't, as long as Christians believe that, they will support Jews and Jewish supremacy, and they will look the other way no matter what. And they will continue to be this fucking death cult, ushering in the Antichrist so Jesus can come back and save them all. They're literally wanting and desiring the end of the world. And this whole notion that God wins in the end actually sterilizes the American Christians to inaction and servitude and capitulation. Because they fucking believe God wins in the end, and why even go to work? Why even fucking vote? You might as well just let your fucking daughters and mothers and sisters get raped and murdered. Because why? God wins in the end. Why even stand up for yourself? Why even have a gun? Why even have a Second Amendment? God wins in the end. Why even live? Why don't you just jump off a fucking bridge? Because God wins in the end. I'm fucking sick of that phrase. I'm sick of Christians today. They're the biggest bunch of fucking losers with this ideology they have.
In that documentary that I sent you guys, that's what that guy talks about. That guy he's a Christ follower, and he flat out says that the prophecy, the end times prophecy, was invented by the Catholic Church in cahoots with the Jews to subjugate Christians and have control over them. And it makes complete damn sense. It is a very, very frustrating thing. Oh, I want to point this out for a second, because you did say, I want to go back for a second, because you said that diamonds were the biggest import of Israel. Let's see. The diamond mines located are in many countries, including Russia, Botswana, South Africa, Angola, Canada, and Zimbabwe. Didn't really see any in Israel.
Yeah, there's no diamond mines in Israel.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest exporter of
that. So hold on one second. So keep talking, because I will.
Here's a message.
Wonder where they're robbing those from.
Here's a mess.
Wonder where they're Jewing the Africans out of diamonds. They're going down there going, look at this. This is a blanket. Ooh, you take this. So every American who's pissed off at what we did to the native Indians, you better go check out what the Jews are doing in the diamond mines. Ooh, look, fork, eat food, fork. Ooh.
Oh man, Dominic, beautiful you are. Here's a message though for Christians. Matt said, get rid of the Old Testament God. How about this, Christians? Just embrace the New Testament.
Yes.
Embrace the New Testament. Embrace that it's a new covenant, and that old covenant is gone and dead. It was nailed to the cross with Christ. It's done. Embrace the new covenant that says DNA doesn't matter. It's not about DNA, and it's not about what lineage, what line you're coming from. This gift of eternal life through Jesus Christ, anybody can have that. It's a gift for anybody. The salvation given to them, and I don't think. Look, I know Christ is God. I know some people don't like when you point this out, that Christ went into the temple and he overthrew. I get it. He's God. We're not. Did he use anger and violence to get those people that were selling things in the temple out of there? He made a whip and he was whipping them out of there. But you want to stand up for what's right. You want to stand up for what's righteous. And I don't think there's anything wrong with when you see evil in your country, like you see here in the United States today. We're $36 trillion in debt. There's debauchery everywhere. Our schools, our education system, the numbers that are coming out when they're talking about testing, we're falling well behind the averages of other nations. And here we have an obesity problem. We have all these different issues here. We have 50% or so of 18 and younger children that would be classified as obese or overweight. That's shameful. That's shameful. You see videos of kids in PE, in physical education in school in the 60s and the 70s, and everyone looks like they're in shape. You go back even further a little bit, you see videos from, the 30s and the 40s. Men are wearing suits. Women are wearing dresses. Everyone seems to be, care about their appearance. And now you look around, you walk down the street, and you see just people everywhere that don't care about their appearance. They're not well groomed. They're overweight. They're out of shape. They're feeding themselves and they're eating themselves into this prison where, it's just, it's awful. So I'm as a Christian, I want to fight against that. I want to fight against this debauchery that's being pushed on this nation. And I want to restore the United States to a constitutional republic.
Yeah.
And I, just like the founders, if push comes to shove, I'm willing to use force to defend this country from enemies foreign and domestic.
So all the Christian Zionists here and the Israeli Zionists over there. Did you get that message?
That's
Dominic?
what our founders did. Our founders did that. So
I did.
Yeah. But
I'm not disagreeing with you, Dominic.
No,
I don't think there is any diamond mines in Israel.
No, God forbid they do the fucking work themselves and mine that shit. That's my point. Is they're capitalizing
off diamond mines in Africa.
Correct.
They own the diamond mines in Africa. Yeah.
Right. Well, here's the thing. So, real quick, my brother, who's active duty, he's stationed at the Pentagon. He's very high-ranking military official. He's a colonel, and he's at the Pentagon. I asked him one time. I said, "What does Israel do for us? We send Israel money. We send Israel military packages. We send them military supplies." I said, it seems like a very one-way street. We send them money. We send them military supplies. What do we get in return? I look at Desert Storm, Desert Shield. It's a conflict that happened in the early 90s. Did Israel offer us anything? These are questions I'm asking my brother, who, again, he's a Mustang. He was a prior enlisted guy, but now he's been in for 36 years. He's a colonel. He's done 9 combat tours, which included Desert Storm, Desert Shield, going back to the early 90s. And I just said, it doesn't seem like they're doing much for us. Do they do anything for us in Desert Storm, Desert Shield? Do they do anything for us in Operation Enduring Freedom here in 2003? And he says, no, not really. And he's a political officer, so he's not going to go too hard or really tell me what he thinks, because he knows I'll talk about it on the podcast. But here I just said, all right, give me something that Israel does for us. And he said, well, they do things over there in the Middle East that we couldn't get away with in the court of public opinion, but they can. And I thought to myself, that's an interesting thing to say. So they can get away with stuff in the court of public opinion. Why? Because if you go and you criticize Israel, they have the ultimate card, the trump card, which is, oh, you're criticizing us? Oh, you're going to charge Benjamin Netanyahu, the international criminal courts, they're going to charge Benjamin Netanyahu with being a war criminal. What's the first thing he says in response to this? Well, the ICC's anti-Semitic.
Well, it doesn't matter. What do they do? Still, the question remains: what do they do for us? Kill a bunch of people over there.
The other thing he says, they share intelligence. We share intelligence.
Yeah, they share our intelligence with China. Jonathan Pollard. Yeah. They spy on us. Unit 8200, Pegasus Project. They've been caught 1,000,000 times. They don't give us anything except for intelligence to kill their enemies with our weapons, with our tax dollars, and with our men and women. That doesn't benefit us.
When you guys were younger men, and I'll simplify this for everybody at home. When you were younger men, and it's okay to admit this, I will. Did you ever sit there and the girl you were dating did something stupid or cheated on you or whatever, and then she kind of gave you the quivering lip and you just ignored it all because of the pussy and how blind you were and took her back and you kept believing her bullshit? That's fucking Israel. That's the shit. Every time you point something out, they play on your emotions and, where's the violin music? And the old lady with the babushka who's going to tell me about the fucking old days. And this is insane. It's insane.
I think it's worse than that. Dominic. I don't think we even give a fuck. I think our government doesn't give a shit. Not only do they do that for us, our government officials don't even get mad about it. They're fucking part of it. They're part of that shit. You're talking about the girlfriend cheating on you. This is like you being the one who helped her cheat. Well, here's a guy to fuck.
You're saying
this is how our government.
What you're saying is the United States is a cuck for Israel.
100%.
There you go.
You know what? Then we got to take the shit. Let's go kiss a wall together or something. Fold a piece of paper, put it in it.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of this. And again, if people are tired of talking about this, I'm fascinated with this because my entire life had this inexplainable tie to feeling guilty for shit I had no fucking part of. I have no part of the 1800s America and slavery. I have no white guilt for what happened back then. I have no clue what happened in Germany in the 1940s, 30s and 40s with another group of people. I don't feel sorry. I wasn't around back then. That issue's been taken care of. Germany was punished for it. I don't fucking care. So every time my government tells me you have to feel this, you have to feel that, I don't. But I believed it for decades. I mean, since second grade grammar school. This is how bad it was. I still have the damn VHS tape that my mother would play for us and talk to us about how bad World War II and the Germans were. And my own mother, who clearly didn't know the difference, brainwashed us. So I think every American needs to wake up and realize how we are cucks. We're cucks for a group of people who clearly, through their own words, hate us. And the ones who are going, well, it's not all of us. It's not great. Do you condemn your own people? No.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. You don't hear them doing that.
No.
Very, very few. Norman Finkelstein will do it. Max Blumenthal. You have very, very few. But the average one, no, they stay quiet. And again, it might be because they'll be criticized by their own people. But to your point, if you don't denounce that, then how can I even trust you if you're not denouncing? And I'm not even talking about Palestine. I'm talking about their dominance in our culture, our country, and over our government. And they're going to call you anti-Semitic for pointing out these facts. Well, then forget it. If you're not going to point out Jewish supremacy within the United States of America and the stranglehold Israel has over our fucking government and our entire discourse within America, then you're no friend of mine. You're an enemy. You're an enemy. That means you support it. If you don't condemn it, you support it.
100%.
All right.
Gents, what's coming up on the Burn Pit podcast?
We got a good one.
This coming Monday, we're doing a recorded episode with Philip Torney, who is a survivor of the USS Liberty. His son, Bryce, will be in studio with us. This memorial group, they're flying them in, actually, to Pittsburgh. Yep. And Philip Torney was just on Candace Owens' show. He was on Jake Shields' show. They reached out to us. They said, hey, these guys want to come on the podcast. And we said, absolutely. So that's a big one for us. It's a big one for us.
All right.
Another example, the USS Liberty wasn't taught to us in school. I didn't get that lesson.
I didn't get that until last year. Unbelievable. We don't talk about any of this.
I'm gonna send a 10-minute video on the USS Liberty in the chat in a couple minutes.
Guys, for that video, there's two chats, the Burn Pit Podcast chat and Rants of Izzo chat on Telegram. You can go find those in the description of whatever you're watching here. Make sure you check out the Burn Pit Podcast Mondays, 4 p.m. Eastern on your favorite streaming platform, if you will. Or if you're an audio person, go check out the Burn Pit Podcast, if you will. That's it. Wednesday. Again, if you guys, this is just blows me away. It's like the fire hose was crimped for decades. So when these guys are on, it's outrageous how we support a people who do nothing for us, and we're destroying ourselves as a nation for people who don't give a fuck about us, who clearly say that they're better than us. That's it. Go help somebody today, and if you can't help them, just don't hurt them. Rants of Izzo Show. See you guys later on.